I'm Justin Davis, and this is Drone Camps RC. Alright guys, a lot of other reviews out there right now on this one, but I've had mine for about a week now, and I have been testing it in some pretty harsh environments. We're going to take it out into the Oregon trees and give it a proper testing with a lot of tree canopy in the way between this singular antenna DJI unit. So Caddx has teamed up with DJI and they've released the Vista. It is currently sold out on the Caddx website, and so you can only pre-order it right now on the BG website. We're going to put that link down below, but it does have a 20.1 millimeter camera, so it is the sort of micro size camera. It will not work in the little tiny whoop type style brushless micros. So game changer would be if they released a smaller camera. That would be cool. It is a game changer, however, since we do have the option for putting this on a 20x20 mount. So any of your micro brushless can now run digital FPV, which is awesome. It is not an analog camera, and don't expect this one to work with your regular goggles, guys. Also has a power input range up to 6S on this one. It's beating the power range on the original Air module, which is awesome. So now we can talk about my disappointments for the Caddx Vista, and that number one would be that there's no DVR on here. That was a disappointment. It is available for a 20x20 stack setup, which is great, but it also has a singular antenna on there with an IPEX connector. That IPEX connector is securely fastened, but I would have liked to have seen two antennas on this particular module. So the first thing you're going to need to do, guys, is you're going to need to update this module with the latest DJI Assistant version 2.02. And once you connect your USB cable and go back into the program, the DJI Assistant opens up and it will go through a disclaimer. Just say yes and agree to the terms. Now it's going to activate it. Once it's activated, you'll still need to update the goggles and the module. So we're going to go ahead and update the module. There's already been an update on it, which is awesome. So they're working on Caddx Vista pretty hard. Now we're going to download it first. It's going to download. It's going to go through that process. I'm going to speed this up really quick. Transmitting. And then you finally get to the updating part. There's 3 procedures in there, and the update's complete. Now you're going to go ahead and press the pair button on the module and press it also on the goggles, and eventually you should see and hear it link up. And now it wants the goggles updated, so I'm going to have to go back to the Assistant, plug in my USB-C port here, and go back, click on DJI FPV goggles, and you want to go ahead and select the newest firmware. You're going to download it again. It's going to transmit and update. Going through that process all over again, and like I said, about 20 minutes time, and then you'll actually see your Caddx Vista show up on your goggles. So the weight on this little guy is 29 grams. It does beat out the original Air module at 45 grams. Okay, now we're ready for the FPV flight test on 700 milliwatt. This is the extreme Oregon Tree Canopy test. It is not optimal conditions for the Caddx Vista whatsoever. Right now you can see that I have focus mode on. If you look left and right on the screen, it's usually a little more pixelated from left to right, and in the center it's a little more clear. But generally I don't run focus mode. It's distracting. I usually turn it off, and that way there's a pixel wash across the entire screen, but it seems to be better setting for me, even on the Caddx Vista. Now when I'm way out here in this garden area right here, this tree canopy is really thick and I'm low to the ground. We're running 700 milliwatt, but it's really at times hard to see where the scraggle is. So normally with an analog setup, traditional analog setup running 700 milliwatt this close in, I can see the tree scraggle pretty good. And typically running the DJI Air module, the full size version, I felt like I could get in there a little closer and do some tree exploration in the winter time with these type of branches. And we're going to get up in there and explore those tree canopies here in a minute, but I also wanted to show you low to the ground. The grass looks okay. There is some pixelization low to the ground, especially far away. Now we're going to slow the quad way down, and I'm going to try to get up inside this tree canopy right here. Right now I've got the building and a lot of these branches in the way, and I'm able to make that gap that you guys have seen before. Now let's go up in top of this tree, and again I have that metal building and several other Oregon trees in the way of this singular antenna setup, and that looks pretty good in the center. I can kind of see, but when I come around, it gets really muddy right here. I'm having a really hard time navigating. Now I'm going to go up a little more, try to find my exit here. And it's really hard to see below. That bottom section is completely blurred out. And now back down to the ground. I was lucky that I made it out. Up close, it looks fine. This little guy loved the quadcopter. He had a little RC car out there that day with his dad. His dad was interested in the FPV quad also. So just to show off, I decided to see if I could fly through this gap right here. This is a pretty treacherous gap because you can get stuck up there. I also wanted to see how it handled low level light. It seemed to be pretty good. Didn't have a lot of light shift adjustment, so the camera connection seems to be solid. It is a fairly finicky camera connection. If you have to connect the original camera to the Vista module, it will take you some time to get it right. Make sure you don't put it in the wrong way. Now we'll just back over top of this metal building. It seems to be holding up. Still in focus mode there, which I definitely have to turn off. And this is on a much darker day than I've seen some of the other reviewers test out their Caddx Vistas here in Oregon. A lot of times it is overcast, and some of the analog cameras of choice seem to be like the Caddx Ratel, because that one really does a good job in low level light, like we have to fly a lot in the winter. And so far, my impression of the Caddx Vista is that I feel like the original Air model might perform a little better. And now up into these trees right here. This is actually doing pretty good for a singular antenna, because these trees right here are unforgiving. If I was running 25 milliwatt right now, you wouldn't be able to see a thing. Also above this metal building, still able to see everything in crystal clear HD, which is great. And we got to get up in there a little further and do some more exploring high up, because I want to put this Caddx Vista to the ultimate test. I want to get it inside those trees, those super thick evergreens up there. That's what they're called. A little bit of break up there, back around this tree, and now we're going to go deep into the canopy. Way above here and deep into the canopy. So I have that metal building in between me right now, and the higher up it goes, the better it does, it seems like, above you. If you get up around 100 feet, it starts to perform a lot better, coming back to your goggles. And I'm pretty happy with this because I feel like I can dip down into these trees. I can go behind stuff. My traditional analog camera, I have not been this high up in the evergreens and flown this, even on 700 milliwatt in this area. This is pretty impressive for being able to fly a micro through those trees. And now you can see it's almost absolutely perfect. Now I'm still standing underneath that metal building, and this is the view that I'm seeing in the goggles that's being recorded. This is not any onboard DVR stuff right here. This is purely what I'm seeing. And even through there, that really thick part made it through. Now I'm going a little bit deeper in the trees here, and I'm going to try to duck under here. I almost lost it right there. But very impressive. Very, very impressive. It has gone places that my analog cameras have not gone. Now, muddy near the ground, which is interesting. Way up high, it was great, even through that thickest tree canopy. And then when I get back close to the ground, it turns into this sort of muddy look again. And I feel like the light shift adjustment wasn't bad today, but there is quite a bit of mud close to the ground here. And this is just an open air test right in front of myself. Not bad. I'm actually pretty impressed with what we have here today, and especially since we can put it on a 20x20 format, and now we have it on micro brushless drones, which is great. Even if we don't have the DVR, we now have digital on our micros, and that is awesome. So I'm super happy that Caddx teamed up with DJI and made this happen. It took a lot of licensing and a lot of paperwork probably to make this happen. It's probably not the cheapest thing to do either, so I definitely recommend trying one out for your quad if you can get a hold of one. Let's go ahead and talk about some final thoughts, guys. Here we go. I like it. Okay, so now that you've seen an extreme test of what the Vista is capable of, it was not optimal conditions. It wasn't sunny California. It was actually dark, overcast, partially raining Oregon through the thickest tree canopies that we have out here, the evergreens. They just stay super thick all through the winter, and it's usually an issue for a lot of FPV guys on analog. So I think that the mounting point on here is great. It is that micro size 20.1 millimeter camera. You can fit it on most of your micro brushless. I did have to search around for a frame though, because most of my whoops right now seem to be the baby turtle size camera. It's much smaller. It's that Runcam Nano size, and this camera is a little bit bigger. The rush antenna also did pretty well. It was working pretty good high up, even though I had a low mount like this. I would generally like to have it a little bit higher up, and I wish that Caddx could provide some kind of extension for that antenna so we can get it further back out the back of a frame if you have a longer 5-inch frame you want to put the Vista on. So the options are fairly wide open with the Vista, and I think it's going to be a great thing for the future. It's kind of the future of digital FPV, especially with all the regulations coming up. If you guys want to stay under 250 grams, this is the way to do it. Guys, I'm Justin Davis. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one.